Good afternoon, everyone. It's 2 o'clock, and I would like to get the meeting started, please. We would like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance, so Ron, if you would lead us in that, please. Okay, I need a motion, please, to adopt the agenda. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We have past minutes from March the 3rd and March the 12th. I need a motion to approve those, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed. We had the Board of Directors held an executive session on Friday, March the 9th, 2018, to discuss third-party contracts, litigation, and personnel matters. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming and appreciate your taking the time to come and listen to all that's going on in your club. Having just passed my 30-day mark as your president, I'm excited with all that is happening in our community. I'm also pleased with the constitution of our board. We are working well together, with our strength being a communicative and collaborative team. Our facility master plan is being reviewed by our members, with 2 or more focus groups scheduled for April 14th, which is a Saturday. Our hope is to provide meetings that our weekend members can attend. The meetings have been going very well. The Facilities Ad Hoc Committee, made up of Barbara Charnas, Dr. Michael Trollop, and Fred Sigmund, have hosted over 15 meetings, and we will have reached over 500 members with these focus groups. It's really wonderful to see the high level of interest that our members have. If you have attended a focus group and haven't turned in your comments to the committee, please complete the form for us and drop them off to Susie in our administration building. Your feedback remains very important. We continue to compile your comment sheets. Also, a quick note, for those of you that have asked to be called, we are waiting until the sessions are completed. We will provide the community with frequently asked questions, FAQs. Callbacks will come behind the dissemination of the FAQs. It's important to understand that we will refine and adjust our facilities proposal based on your desires. The proposal you have reviewed are the overall possibilities that our architect, Mr. Altivers, suggested. We need to distill down the improvements that are most important to our members, determine how much of an appetite the board and management team have for financing, and present the culmination of all that information to you. Nothing in facilities will change without our members' vote to approve. It has been my pleasure to attend most of the committee meetings that have been held in the last month or so. Honestly, I am amazed and delighted to see the hard work and total commitment of our chairman and committee members to their particular area of interest. Our members are fully vested in what is positive and enjoyable for our neighbors and exceeding expectations at the same time. Across the board, the committee activity is working. Whether it is hosting or reviewing performance at various events, reviewing the budgetary needs for the coming fiscal year, working on the safety of our campus in anticipation of a major disaster, spreading our golf events out to accommodate our members' wishes, exploring opportunities with our aging facilities, or hosting a national pickleball tournament. We are on it. Our community is full of capable people who continue to impress me. As a token of the board and management's gratitude, a volunteer appreciation event was held on March the 27th to acknowledge all the hard work that our members and staff do to continue to make the Lakes the wonderful campus that it is. Finally, I am so excited for our General Manager and Chief Operating Officer, Frank Milan, to present our BAI 04-18-102. This is a terrific opportunity for our staff. I would like to personally thank Dick Sheehan for agreeing to chair this amazing initiative for our staff. Dick was instrumental in launching a similar program at the Jonathan Club in Los Angeles. Our members are enjoying themselves, letting us know that they are loving life at the lakes. Management is doing a terrific job, and your board is working hard on long-term initiatives and strategies to make the lakes an even better place to live. Thank you. Frank?
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's hard to believe that I'm sitting here and we already had our closing party this last Friday and then our couples tournament. And I can tell you that every single event that we've done this year, whether it's a golf event or just a food and beverage event, has exceeded the totals for the past 6 or 7 years. So the events have been very successful, and I thank everyone for certainly attending. We were continuing on our process of branding that we started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And tomorrow we're going to be hosting, and we'll be doing it for the next 5 months. We're hosting the Palm Desert Chamber of Commerce breakfast here early tomorrow morning, where basically the shakers and movers of the area here at Palm Desert and different businesses will get exposed to what our product is here, and it's just another chance to expand our brand, and we're real excited about that. Another opportunity that we had was from our last pickleball tournament, the National Pickleball Tournament, which was, number one, we can't thank the volunteers enough, which there's no way we could have done that tournament without them. But I've been contacted by the Boardroom Magazine, which is a national publication that goes out throughout the United States, and they're going to be doing a feature article on the Lakes Country Club and that pickleball tournament. So once again, getting the brand out again. I know Ron will be talking about, we're in the process, our CFO, of the budget, and that's where we're at now, submitting that and working with the Finance Committee, so we'll talk about that. I want to talk about keys too. So we've just gone through a process where we have updated our key log, and we know now that we have 739 working keys, 163 keys that either do not work or the member chooses us not to have that. But it was a system that needed updated. Now it's totally data-based and much more accurate, which will help us. I'll talk more about alarms later in the under old business. We'll be in the process probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks to send out, I think it'll be our 5th correspondence from the board in regards to an update of where we are on all the 2020 plans and what's going on. I'm sure we'll talk about some of the budget stuff. So there'll be another correspondence that'll be a hard copy as well as electronically to all of our members. And at the same time, we'll be looking at doing another member survey. That'll be our 3rd member survey in less than 3 years. So we certainly want that input from everyone. In regards to the focus group, Ann touched on that as well. So we'll be doing 2 focus groups. We've got a doubleheader Saturday. You don't really see that in baseball much anymore, but we're doing doubleheaders. And so we'll talk to almost another 100 members this Saturday. And we've had to change it to the Lakeside room just because we have too many people that want to come. So once we do that, we'll probably be over 600 members that we've actually spoken with and talked to. And within probably 30 days, we'll have a video that's a condensed video on our webpage, and as well as that'll be electronically hyperlinked to everyone that you could look at. But we're certainly looking for comments and questions. We have hundreds of comments and questions that all have been given not only to the board and to the subcommittee, but also to our architect, Bob Altiver. So every single comment that everyone has said has been given to the ad hoc committee, to the board of directors, as well as to management, and as well as our architect. So every single comment will be considered. And as you can imagine, not all the comments agree with each other. What a surprise there. And at the same time, too, what you'll be seeing is all the FAQs on the website. So we're going to take every single question and answer every single one of those questions. So even if you had a question, you might just even find it on that website. So kind of excited about how the season has gone. I wanted to certainly congratulate the team that we have here at the Lakes for such a fabulous job. I can't tell you we could not do it without the great team that we have here. And as all of us, I appreciate them so much. Thank you.
Ron, would you like to provide the financial report, please?
Sure. So I'm going to actually be providing the financials from February 28th, which you've received some time ago, and the Finance Committee has had a chance to review. With it being April 9th, we haven't quite closed March yet. That'll happen later in the week. So the February financials, I'll give you usage first and then the financials. We had For the February 2018, 6,399 total rounds played compared to a year ago of 6,486, so down just a bit. Over in the fitness center, we had 2,981 visits compared to 3,063, also just down a bit, but we did have more individual members visit, 609 compared to 564. Over in the tennis center, all three areas were up, 564 visits for tennis compared to 430 from a year ago, 486 compared to 413 for pickleball, and then pop tennis 105 versus 100. Total usage was 1,244, including guest usage, compared to 1,075 a year before. Number of members utilizing the center was also up, 188 compared to 156. So all venues were way up. And the total number of golf members is now north of 460 for the first time in a long time, which is good. That's broken down into three different categories for us: resident, non-resident, and then intro. So for the financials, we had a great month in the month of February. We're 63,636 under budget. Every department but one was actually under budget, and the one that wasn't was only $3,600 over budget. But we'll focus on those that had a $5,000 variance, and there were three. Golf course maintenance was $15,847 under budget. $10,000 of that was related directly to payroll. We still have several employees out on extended leave, which are backfilled, obviously, with a temp service. And then the second major variance can be attributed to seed and sod, which ran under budget for $4,000 for the month. And that is not a timing difference, that's actual savings. Facilities maintenance, $29,000 under budget. First, we experienced a net payroll savings of about $14,000, which is again related to the transition of staff from outside contractor to in-house. We've talked about this several times, and I sound like a broken record here, but pool maintenance and bringing that in-house versus outsourcing the electrical and painting work. It's expected that a small variance will also occur in the remaining months of the year. And the second largest variance in this department can be attributed to cumulative utilities, which was better than budget by about $6,000. Water and lakes was $12,650 under budget. Utilities ran better than expected by about $5,000, while R&M accounts in totality were under budget by $5,200. Balance sheet noteworthy items. The board has received, obviously, this package and all financial statements for the month. The board treasurer has reviewed bank reconciliations, total reserves, roof, and cash at the end of the month totaled right near $8 million. Accounts receivable was $562, so we'll probably be at close to the largest point during the year. It's all current receivables. Everybody has 30 days to pay off their bills. But we have our highest usage in February and March, so our AR is the highest. We only have one outstanding loan now, and that's the solar loan. It's down to $248. There's only 36 members that are left on the large roof assessment at $200 a month, and your current payoff is $4,485.01. Some other noteworthy items related to finance: the number of members 90 days delinquent was down to 7, so that's our low for the last 12 months. Currently, those are filled out by 5 with liens against them, with the other 2 having pre-liens filed against them. There are 2 bank-owned properties, and I think we're up to 47 closed properties since July 1. I think Frank alluded to the fact that we're in budget time and budget review. So those of you who are interested, we will have a budget review session with the Finance Committee this Thursday from 10 to noon in the multipurpose room, and again on Friday from 2 to 4, where they will receive and review the upcoming budget for the fiscal year 18-19. Once we're complete with the Finance Committee, if we're able to complete in those 2 days and we don't need a third session, we will schedule a joint meeting of the Board of Directors and the Finance Committee to give any final recommendations and present the complete budget to the board, which will happen in either the second or third week of April, and then ultimately the board will approve 18-19 fiscal year budget along with any related assessments on the May 11th meeting. And that's my report.
Thank you, Ron, very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and I would like a motion to approve the consent calendar, please. Second? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion carried. Thank you. Committee liaison reports. Architecture and landscape. Fred Sigmund, would you like to start?
Yeah, it was fairly short. We had a meeting in March, I gotta remember what month it is, March, and reviewed the properties that are on the BAIs today. And the committee was a little bit quieter because the process of reviewing the architectural guidelines was basically wrapped up, and that information has been passed on to the board, and I think there's an item on here to discuss that today. So we're kind of moving through the summertime now, which will be pretty much activity revolving around remodeling and additions and things of that nature. So it's pretty straightforward, not too complicated. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Fred.
Fred.
Let me do that. Bob. Joe. Finance. Alan Kirks.
Thank you, Madam President. Ron took all of my thunder here to tell the schedule of the Finance Committee, but we've had a meeting last week of the Reserve Subcommittee, looked over the annual reports and updates, and we'll be presenting that to the regular Finance Committee at our next meeting on April 26th. As Ron mentioned, we're in the middle of starting the budget process. So any members who want to come to the two meetings, one on Thursday at 10 to 12 and one on Friday at 2 to 4 at the multi-purpose room in admin, are welcome to attend and see how we start, how we go through each of the departments, and then later in the month we'll have a joint meeting where we'll recommend to the board our position. Most of the time, reality is there's not many changes to the budget that's presented by management, but there have been changes, and there is even has been some recommended changes to the monthly dues recommended. So things like that can happen. So if you'd like to attend, you can. And so April 26th would be a good finance meeting if you want to see the end of this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Ron, would you like to talk about Golf Committee, please?
Thank you, Madam President. The Golf Committee had their last meeting on March 14th. I must confess I did not attend that meeting because I was busy getting my hip replaced that day, but they discussed a lot of things that day. The Niners, the LLGA, and the LMGA are all in the process of changing their boards, and they're in the process of planning for next year. The committee looked at a initial calendar for the golf events, and after that after the committee meeting, many of the board meetings, and Mike Clifford and John Shannon, the committee chairman, received comments about having too many events in February and March. So we convened the presidents of the Niners, the LLGA, and the LMGA for another go around on the calendar. We moved some events into February, and we consolidate some events so the calendar doesn't look near as crowded. So I want to mention that we are listening to the membership, and we heard you loud and clear that we need to make some changes. So we did that. Also at that meeting, they talked about some potential summer projects on the golf course, maybe doing some work on a couple greens and some sand traps and the driving range. Those projects will be part of the budgeting process and will go through finance and ultimately to the board for approval. I wanted to mention the fact that the Bob Golby dinner was on the 26th, and if you attended that, you'll have to admit it was one of the better events that we have held at the lakes. And I think we want to give Mike Clifford and his staff and Brian Cox and his staff a big round of applause for the work they did to make that a really outstanding event. The other thing I'd comment, Ann, is we have a subcommittee that's working on committee assignments, and the people that were wanting to be on committees for next year, those interest forms were to have been turned in, I think, the 26th of March, and Teresa's been busy organizing all those, so some of us can meet with her, and we're going to have our first meeting on tomorrow afternoon, and take a look at making committee assignments.
Thank you, Ron. Susie, do you want to talk about House?
Thank you. I do. Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to go over quickly with what Ann had said earlier, how much time and effort it takes for our volunteers, and especially under House umbrella. Every volunteer works on the committees, and they chair it, and if they don't chair it, they certainly have to contribute in many ways. So this year's fashion show was just extremely successful and sold out again. Game night, again, sold out. Every one of our events are sold out. And Easter weekend, what Brian Cox and everyone on staff has to do to get through the Easter weekend is just unbelievable. And I think everyone comes back with just positive remarks on the children. When you watch them, it's just fabulous. And again, with the dog extravaganza. And we have a couple more events left, and really the one that's coming up next week, Thursday, April 17th, is Paint and Sip. And again, I'm sure that will also be sold out. So I would just like to say thank you to everyone on the House Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. New member welcome. Truman?
Thank you. This committee continues to work hard. They're in the process now of planning for their first event, probably in October, and that's the new member welcome party. And they'll be planning that over the summer. And like everything that they have been doing, particularly the last couple of years, it will be exciting and successful. And they'll be working over the summer to make it all happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Truman. Peter, would you like to talk about sports, please?
Yes, thank you. So our last sports committee was on March 8th, which was before the March 12th board meeting, which I gave a full report. But since then, as Frank mentioned, we did have our second annual tournament, pickleball. Our first year was quite a learning experience, and we refined many of the things that we had done the first year, and we improved to the point where if you added up the 2 years, we showed a profit. And we've already have had meetings discussing what we can do to improve for next year, and two of the bigger items that we're toying with will be another expense reduction. This year we had well over 460 participants, and I believe before the tournament was over, a winning couple in mixed doubles actually stopped the tram as it was headed to their car, went into an open house and made an offer. This weekend, we're having a 3-day pickleball clinic put on by Engage Pickleball, and people from around Southern California, maybe the United States, are coming to be trained on all sorts of different specifics. But the point being is that a major manufacturer is highlighting our club as a pickleball haven, bringing people in who are paying good money to attend. They're enthusiasts, they're looking for a lifestyle, and will be showcased. And so our next sports meeting will be this Thursday, the 12th, and hopefully next month I'll have more events to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Hugh, would you like to talk about EPRT, please?
Sure, Ann, thank you. I'm pleased to provide a brief update on the EPR team and their volunteer efforts. On March 13th, an educational session was held at the picnic grounds for all interested homeowners regarding fire extinguisher equipment. There was a good turnout, and over 20 homeowners purchased a new fire extinguisher. An excellent demonstration was put on as to the proper way to use an extinguisher. Homeowners whose equipment is quite old, However, should have them checked as they do lose pressure and may now be non-workable. Also, if you have the older model with the plastic mechanism, you should have that checked for sure because they do deteriorate. The EPR team also held their workshop on March the 16th. On April 2nd, the Board of Directors held a disaster awareness drill, led by Bill Martson, our head of security. The board went through a drill regarding how to set up a proper command center in the multipurpose room, complete with radio, gas power generator, etc. Upcoming at 3 o'clock tomorrow, April 10th, the retired San Bernardino fire captain will be at the Lakeside room here for an emergency management and preparation session. All homeowners are encouraged to attend this important learning session. Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Before we head into old business, we have a comment card. Dr. Rutenberg, did you have a comment to make, sir?
Being one of the older facilities here, thank you for renovating me. My question is, would the board consider, I mean, I think the website's made fabulous steps forward this past year. That new homepage is just gorgeous. And I was just wondering if the board would consider establishing a high-frequency user committee, people that, or not even a committee, just a group who could kind of share ideas with getting through the web page, if there be it shortcuts or reducing the number of clicks. I personally have found a couple of things that require sort of searching. And so I just wondered if they might consider setting that up. Also, I was told at the, sorry about this one, but I was told at the meeting, the town hall meeting, if you want to call it, on 14th, Frank, you told me the new facades would be available in 2 weeks. And I did a follow-up email correct with Jim, who said they'd be available after today's meeting. So I wonder where I could go see them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rutenberg. We certainly will take that recommendation under consideration. We also have, Leslie does do a users group, Tech Tuesday, and maybe we can coordinate it with that. Regards to, I think that's part of the architectural guidelines you're talking about. That's actually on the agenda for today, so I think we'll see where that goes.
Just a reminder, too, to our audience, we would really like you to state your name and your address. No worries. Okay, Frank, do you want to talk about an alarm update, sir?
Sure. And just one other further point, Peter, those folks' offer was received and they're in escrow, the pickleball players. So just a good note on what Brandy can do. So in regards to the alarm update, so this certainly has been a real chore. So to date, as of April 5th, rather, 269 units have been inspected. Notices have been given to each person that either has passed or failed with the exact, if they in fact failed the test, what they needed to do to correct it. And it's a number of different issues, so what we found. So sometimes it just doesn't communicate. We found situations where the smoke detectors themselves, sometimes 35 years old, were not working at all, even though their unit did coordinate or contact the gate. So that this is where the procedure is different and improved from the procedure that we were using in the past. We actually found a few that the smoke detectors did not make any audible alarm, which obviously needed to be corrected right away. So I know that it's been about 10 or 15 people so far. I put in totally new units. We're tracking that. We're meeting with West Tech now on a weekly basis. We've talked about a better coordination with our team here and West Tech than we've had to date to improve that. And we've seen a huge uptick on people that are now reserving and making appointments for that. So once again, we're meeting on a weekly basis with West Tech. And we're noting exactly what's going on with the units. And our emphasis here is in regards to, we want to make sure that there's a working smoke detector that communicates to our gate, and that's where the emphasis is. So that's where the improvement in the procedure is. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. We'll move on now to new business, board action items. Frank?
Thank you. BAI 04. 18-101 would be to approve moving the May 4th, 2018 board meeting to May 11th, 2018, and approve the revised 2018 board meeting schedule.
May I have a motion, please? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any concerns? Motion passed. Thank you. Frank?
Thank you. BAI 04-18-102, just to give you a little preliminary on this in regards to the forming Lakes Country Club Scholarship Charter and Committee as attached to the form. How this all came about is about a year and a half ago, there was a fundraiser that the Niners did for an outside group, and a substantial amount of money was raised for them, and a number of members had come up to me at that function and said, isn't there something we could do to, in fact, fundraise for educational purposes for our own staff here as well as their offspring? And so there are firms in the Valley and a number of clubs that I've been with that, in fact, have committees of the association that basically set the guidelines for what educational requirements would be, how they would be funded, and what the allotments would do. So the actual approval would be to approve the Lakes Country Club Scholarship Committee, the draft committee charter, as well as the draft funding agreement with final revisions that will be recommended to the board of the committee once that committee meets. That committee, in fact, would be composed of the chairman, Dick Sheehan, Bob Baldwin, Kathy Cheeseman, Gary Cuccio, Marla Franklin, Monty Seaton, and Gary Wright. So looking for a motion to approve the committee as well as the charter and draft agreement.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you very much. This is incredibly exciting. I can't stand it. I'm so excited. It's going to be so neat. And Dick, thank you so much for taking the lead on this. I just can't wait. It's going to be great for our staff. Okay, Frank.
Okay, to approve BAI 04-18103. This would be Phase 4 of the residential door and trim paint project, which is a reserve expenditure, and touch-up painting of club buildings in an amount not to exceed $261,272. There were 3 bidders on this. This contract is recommended to be approved to the low bidder, Flanders Painting.
May I have a motion, please? Second? All in favor? Any opposition? Motion passed. Fred.
This is my first shot at this, so bear with me. So we've got some BAIs, I always get that backwards, to do some improvements to some of the residential units. Basically, it's approving the exclusive use of easements. Let me get that a little louder. How's that? Where they're taking on some additional property to add to a unit or to add patio area, things of that nature. So the first one, BAI 04-18-104, 220 Wild Horse for the exclusive use of easement of 110 square feet of common area for a patio extension fence, extension with a fence unit.
May I have a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you.
All right, the next one is BAI 04-18-105, 238 Running Springs for the exclusive use easement of 160 square feet of common area for a master bathroom addition and in addition a barbecue addition fire pit remodel area.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you.
The next one is BAI 04-18-106, 335 Red River for the exclusive use of easement of 65 square feet of common area for a patio extension and a fence.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. Thank you.
And the next one, I think, which is that the last one? Yeah, the last one, BAI 04-18-107, 199 Green Mountain for the exclusive use easement of 25 square feet of common area for a patio extension, and which is a partial part of it is enclosing filling in a planter bed and a barbecue addition.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion passed. So we have a comment request that I think before I do our 04-18-108, Buzz, did you want to make a comment?
This isn't about 108. This is a comment about old business.
Yeah, that's why I wanted
Yes.
to include it.
It's Buzz Gittleson, 236 Wild Horse. And my concern is that there are safety measures here at the lakes, which it seems to me the board needs to have more authority to implement. And by that I mean, for instance, the smoke alarm, fire alarm situation, and two, the keys. The comment was made just a few minutes ago that 160-some owners haven't provided keys to security and choose not to. Well, we're living together. This is not a separate family home situation. This is an association. All the homeowners ought to provide those keys. We have bonded people acting as our security people. And in an emergency, it's important for the staff to be able to get in there. That's number one. But as to the smoke and fire alarm issue, I think we ought to have a provision that allows some kind of emergency procedure after a homeowner's been advised that their smoke alarm doesn't comply. They're not either the smoke alarm isn't working or the connection isn't there. There ought to be a relatively short period for compliance, and after that, the association ought to have the power to go in and have it done. This is for the protection of all of us, because right now I have the sense that people, unless they're compelled to do it, there are some people who will not do it, and it's important. We've seen what happens with fires that start and affect neighboring homeowners. So I'd like to see whether it's a CC&Rs and or the rules, but to be evaluated to give the board very clear authority to act more quickly and decisively, and for the homeowner to have an affirmative obligation to meet those safety requirements.
Thank you, Buzz. I've just received another request here about alarms. Let's see, that's Jim Petrella. Would you like to come forward?
I'm Jim Petrella. I live at 16 Ponderosa. I live 2 houses down from the fire that took place, I think, October. I heard today that we have inspected 269 homes, out of how many were supposed to be scheduled. I think it started in the 1st of March, and this would be the 5th week, and we've done 269 in 5 weeks. Is that correct? Anybody going to answer?
Yes.
How many of those passed and how many of those failed?
$117 failed.
Out of 269.
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the methodology to notice to the members that they need to do something about it?
The number of members are in process. What needs to happen, seeing how the way the document was written and done, only gives us authority to see if the actual system connects to the gate. Has nothing in your governing documents that addresses whatsoever smoke alarms. So that's what we're dealing with right now.
The governing documents do state, I believe, that we must have a working phone line.
That is correct,
How
which
many
has
of those,
nothing to do
how
with...
many of the 117 that did not pass did not have a working phone line?
I'm just, I don't know the exact number, but it was minimal. I mean, most of them didn't pass because of a smoke detector issue.
Yeah, the working phone line's
Smoke
not
detector
helping us.
issue or a smoke alarm issue?
I'll give an example. In my home, I have 2 homes, and one of them passed with flying colors, and the other basically got a fail. Now, the basis of the fail is the smoke detectors work, and the call out is made to the central station.
The smoke detectors or the smoke alarm?
The smoke detector, smoke alarm. Okay, so it's a unit. It It reads the smoke, sends a notice. What it doesn't do is make any noise in the unit. And so you can hear the main panel goes. You can hear the main panel going beep, 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 beep. But the smoke alarms themselves, for some reason, don't make an audible noise. They send out a signal to say that there's smoke in the unit, so that the fire department or our security knows about it. So I'm in the process of I'm waiting for a proposal to put new smoke detectors in.
But
so that's considered a failure, even though everything really technically is working from a standpoint of sending out a signal for help.
So if the phone line works and the fire alarm works and the smoke detectors don't work, that's a failure?
Be careful, the smoke detector works, it just doesn't make any noise inside the unit. So it sort of works. But that's considered a failure.
The reason we're considering it a failure is because it's for life and safety. You want a smoke detector to make an audible sound that if you were sleeping in your bed and there happened to be a fire, you'd want the smoke detector to make a loud enough noise to wake the occupants up. So we're trying to go a step and beyond. While the system indicates that there's a fire, the system uses the phone line that's in place to make the call to the main gate. While all that works, we're taking it a step farther to, on behalf of the resident, to say, hey, you should probably get your smoke alarm
Is West Tech on
fixed.
schedule?
Excuse me?
Is West Tech on schedule with their inspections?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem we've had, Jim, is people not contacting us back. So that's why we started the weekly meetings to see if we can help coordinate getting people to call us back. I think our best guess is that people are thinking it's just some type of sales call, and obviously no one's obligated to use West Tech, but our biggest problem is having anyone contact us back. There's been phone calls made to every single unit in the zones on the exact time stated. It's members getting back to anyone has been the biggest dilemma. So that's what we met about last week and trying to come up with a solution of how do we get a member to call us back.
If you just said no one's obligated to use West Tech, the club just paid for this. After we had the fire in my street, the club sent out an email recommending 2 companies. My wife and I paid to have the company come do it. And then now the board has voted for the club to pay for all of them, all 902. So how can a member refuse to have their unit inspected? If we're paying for it.
What the club obviously cost we observed was just to test the alarms. How do we is the question, how do we force?
No, my question is, how come you won't allow to test the alarm? We're paying for it. How can someone not do it?
No one in the house.
Well, is the club have a plan to notify the membership that this is not satisfactory, that
Sure.
this is not okay?
So let me try to take this one, Jim. When the first couple of weeks when we were doing it, the response rate was obviously lower than expected. So last week, we retooled and taken a different approach. The current zone we're working on, we're having a much better return call rate. So I would think that the success rate's much higher. We're going back, and for those zones 1 through 4 where we received no contact or no callback, we're making a second attempt using this different approach, which is proving to be more fruitful for us. So I would think that we would not only continue to catch up zones 1 through 4, but also make some serious progress in Zone 5.
I have another question. I live in Zone 6. It was scheduled between April 2nd and April 7th. Prior to April 2nd, we did not receive a phone call from anyone. April 2nd, we didn't receive a phone call. April 3rd, we didn't receive a phone call. My wife called condo facilities, and they said, we don't handle this, talk to security. My wife talked to securities, and they said, call West Tech. Is there a person of contact here at in the board or management that we can sort of talk to about these confusing issues?
You can always call me. You can call Teresa. You can call anybody at the administrative office. You can call the director of security. He'd be more than happy to help you. We're all aware of this situation that you went through, and I believe we rectified it.
You know, it's unfathomable to me that someone wouldn't want to protect their own home. It's unfathomable to me. Okay. But apparently we have some people that do that. I think the CC&Rs are clear, or they're not clear, that we need to protect each other. So when I was on the security committee 3 years ago, we were dealing with this. We got the number down. Last November, I went to a meeting on November 14th. There was 155 people on the list since January 1st of 2017. I asked what the process was. The process is we call them up. Well, I found out you call them up every 90 days. If you get a hold of them, then you call them the next 90 days. Doesn't seem a very enforceable process to me. And then we write a letter. I asked how many letters we wrote in 2017. The answer was 0. How many letters do we write in 2016? The answer was 33. What's happened to our process here? Why aren't we protecting one another here? Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. Yeah. Next item is BAI 04-18-108, and this is a dissemination of the architectural and landscape guidelines. Just to give you a little bit of background, we were finding last year and noted that there were a lot of things going on that really weren't working as far as enforcing the guidelines, that we needed to take a look at the spirit of the guidelines and what we think is the best method going forward. So we had a committee, a subcommittee, that was Vic Placeris as the leader, Tom Duff, Shirley Shaw, Mike Hageman, and Nurit Sheehan, painstakingly going through one by one all of the different guidelines and making updates to them with Jim's excellent supervision. Included in this dissemination will be the stone fascia that was brought up probably, 2 years ago and tabled until we could have an architect, which we do now, Mr. Altivers, to take a look at what would work for our community and still keep the ranch style. So included in the dissemination of the guidelines, then we will also include the stone fascia as part of those guidelines. May I have a motion? Just a moment. Yes, we'll get you. Hang on. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Terry?
My first comment is that is this on? Okay. Is that, like many homeowners, we're all thrilled that these are finally coming out. That's the good news. The bad news is 30 days is not enough time for members to comment on this particular new guidance. It's a time of transition for a lot of people. A lot of Canadian members are leaving town. Last time we did some additions, which was in 2017, to the guidelines. They were issued in May, but actually not ultimately approved until December because they extended the comment period significantly over the summer, so members would have enough time, especially during this transition time, to review them and make comments. So my first request is that you either extend the comment period or withhold releasing them for comment until the fall when more members are back here in attendance.
Thank you, Terry.
My second comment.
Excuse me.
Has to do with the facade changes. The board 2 years ago, and Ann, you were on that board at that time, voted against approving any kind of stacked stone or other changes to the facade of the homes in the community. I know that the board later informally decided to allow the architect to take a look at the issue, but it never voted on that to delay enforcement of the decision not to proceed with the facades. So here we are, and the facades are back up again. Twice now, boards have decided against it, and yet it keeps coming up again like a bad penny. At some point, the board has a responsibility to enforce. I've written letters twice about the fact that 2 homes in the community, one of which is on the market and another one which has changed hands already in a sale, were never required to remove their temporary stacked stone on the front of their homes. And now we're back to bringing it up again. At what point does the board going to stand behind any of its decisions? Because if you're not going to enforce your decisions, the board and this community is liable should a member decide to sue over the lack of enforcement. So I think it needs to take a long, hard look at even including this in those architectural guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second. Do we have any other comments beside Mrs. Heidi's? Oh, I'm sorry.
Bill Rutenberg, 233 Wild Horse. Correct me if I am wrong, but when this stacked stone was put to a vote, the vote was by the membership was to approve stacked stone, and it was the board that either tabled it or turned it down. So am I correct that the membership did vote?
No, I'm sorry, Dr. Rutenberg. What happened was the board at that time requested input. Okay, it wasn't a formal request. It was just a suggestion for the members to provide input. And there was input, and the majority of the people that voted thought it would be an idea, but it was too small of a sampling. And that's why we decided it would be important to have a person who understands the issue and really take it forward.
No, I think that's great, but I just thought it was a side comment that there is a group of the members that actually may want to change, and that turning it over to the architect was, in my feeling, absolutely appropriate, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Fred?
Well, I just wanted to, I actually made the motion, as I recall, to set the stacked stone aside, and I want to be clear. It was not a motion to not do stacked stone. That's not what it was about. I was concerned that we hadn't thought about the process of how you manage the product after the first home is done stacked stone, then somebody wants to do river rock, and then somebody wanted to do old brick. You've got the problem of managing it. And it was my hope and desire that the process would lead to exactly what's happened, and that is have a professional, in this case the person who designed this originally, come up with an alternative product for the exterior facing portions, appropriate exterior facing portions of the residential units. We've done that, and now we need to go through the comment period. Terry, you're welcome to put your comments in with regard to that.
Can I just clarify? Because
Yeah.
if you look at the minutes of the meeting where you voted against it, that may have been what everyone was thinking.
Okay.
That's not what was voted on. That's not what the motion was, and it's reflected in the minutes. You turned it down, period. That was it. That's what it says.
Okay.
Go back and look at the minutes.
All right, I don't want to argue with you, Terry.
Penny?
I had the opportunity to be on the Landscape and Architecture Committee this year, and I just wanted to clarify that the type of stone that the architect has recommended for us to use is different and a considerably higher quality and is actual stone as opposed to the facade that we were looking at initially. And I think that's an important thing for everybody to understand. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so the board direction was to, in fact, to obtain an architect, to give recommendations, to get those recommendations back to the architectural committee, to review the architect's recommendation, then to make recommendations to the board of directors from the committee with consideration of what the architect recommended, and that's the process that's being followed. We can certainly look back at the minutes to see if it was recorded correctly. I think almost everyone at this table was at that meeting. So that was the direction that's gone on. It's been on the agendas. So that's the process that we followed, that in fact, instead of not having any professional opinion in regards to the architectural integrity of the California Ranch design, to bring in the original designer of the exact homes to see what should be done, if anything be done, and have that recommendation go back to the Architectural Committee, and then back to the board for the consideration, and then back to the membership for the 30-day review period. So whether the board wants to consider a longer review period, you certainly could do that. But that's basically the process that's being followed. It's you know, it's okay to look at this stuff and do what the majority of the people want to do.
Thank you, Frank. So we have a motion on the floor to authorize the dissemination of the restated architectural. Oh, I'm sorry, Alan.
Thank you, Frank. I would like to amend the motion from 30 days to a 90-day comment period, since it is the end of the season, et cetera, and gives more time to gather input, if you would.
I would second that motion.
So we have an amended motion. Make sure I don't miss anybody here. And it's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Now you have to, on the underlying motion as amended.
Would you like to do that?
Sure. Someone needs to make a motion to approve the underlying motion as amended.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Motion passed. All righty. Our next board meeting is scheduled for Friday, May the 11th, 2018 at 2 o'clock in the Lakeside Room. There being no further business, I request a motion to adjourn. Second? All in favor? All right. Motion carried. Thank you very much.